Professor Bialis here. In this section, I want to very briefly talk about section 5.4, which is covering special products. I want to make this a brief discussion because honestly, I don't like students relying on the patterns that they present in this section. Okay, so I'm going to show them to you, but I want to also show you how there's really nothing that special about them, to be honest. Okay, we can still go through them as we always do with regular multiplication. It's not like it's saving us 5 minutes to go through these special products. So to me, to have a pattern that we just memorize is great when it's saving us a lot of time. If it's not saving us time, to me, it doesn't really make much sense. So I'm going to show them to you, but I'm also going to show why they really just rely on normal multiplication. Okay? So the first special product is FOIL. I talked a little bit about this in my previous video, but let's see what this is presenting. So FOIL is used when you have a binomial times a binomial. Okay, now FOIL stands for firsts, outers, inners, lasts. And then we combine like terms, and that's it. Now, I mentioned this in my previous video, so I'm going to say it again. FOIL is fine, and I'm going to reference that and talk about that in future sections, just so we can kind of navigate a problem. But really all it is you take this x and you distribute. You take the 3 and you distribute, and it's the exact same thing. All it is a way for you to remember what distributes. Okay, but if you know how to distribute in general, then FOIL really isn't necessary. Okay, the next thing is when you have something like this. Let's say x plus 2 and x minus 2. Notice what's special about the initial problem. We have a binomial and then the same two terms, except here we're adding, here we're subtracting. Okay, that's a pretty nice pattern. Let's see how that works out. Okay, if we just go ahead and multiply like normal, we would have x squared minus 2x plus 2x minus 4. Now do you notice what happens? These middle two terms cancel out, and you've just got x squared minus 4. So what they're trying to get you to see here is when you have the same two terms being added here and subtracted here, all you have to do is do the firsts and then the lasts. So go x times x to get an x squared, 2 times negative 2 to get a negative 4. Why? Why are we trying to avoid the 3 seconds it takes to do that? Okay? I'm not saying that if you can see it and you know that that just drops out, by all means go ahead. But I don't want you to think, I got to remember this pattern, and you start mixing them up. Don't worry about it, just distribute. End of story. Okay? The last one that I want to talk about is something like this. Whenever you have a polynomial, more than one term, squared or cubed or to the 4th, what I suggest you do is simply write it out. So I've got x plus 5, x plus 5. We cannot distribute that 2 over those and get x squared plus 25 because we just mixed that multiplication with the exponent and then the sum that was going on inside. That doesn't work. Okay? So what we have to do is write it out. When we do that, we can see that we're distributing, or if you want to call it foiling, we're foiling. So what we get is an x squared, a 5x, a 5x, and a 25. Those middle terms then add up, and we're left with that trinomial. Okay? Now, what the book tries to get you to do is to look at this and say, okay, this is a special product. I can square that, I can square that, I can multiply those to get 5x, and then double it, and then I get the 10x. Did that save you 5 minutes? I don't think so. This only took a few seconds to go through, and to me it's a lot safer. Okay, now if you have that pattern, if you've done this 25, 30 times and you have that pattern worked out, then by all means go ahead and do it. But to me it's not worth forcing yourself to memorize these patterns when you can simply distribute through the problems. Okay, memorization to kind of speed things up is great if it happens naturally. But once we start forcing it, we're opening ourselves up for a lot of mistakes and a lot of confusion. That's just not necessary, especially when it's just saving a few seconds. Okay? Now, one other thing that I want to talk about with something like this is if you have a cube here, write it out 3 times. If you have a 4th power, write it out 4 times. Okay? And then do that distribution. Let me show you an example of that really quick. Let's say we have x minus 2 cubed. Okay? Honestly, there's really nothing special about this product. I just want to show you how you would break it down. So I would have x minus 2, x minus 2, x minus 2. As always, when we multiply a bunch of numbers together, we don't just multiply them all in one big swoop. We do 2 at a time. Same thing's going to happen here. So I'm going to actually work from the right to the left. So I'm going to multiply those 2 together. So I've got x squared minus 2x plus 4. Again, all I did was FOIL or distribute. And I get this after I combine like terms. But don't forget, I still have this in the mix that I now have to distribute again. Okay? So I would distribute the x to get x cubed minus 4x squared plus 4x. And then I would distribute a negative 2. And finally, I would combine those like terms. Okay, so that gives me an x cubed. Negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6x squared. 4 and 8 is 12x. And then negative 8 at the end. Okay, so again, in this section they talk about special products. Okay, but FOIL is just distribution. That situation where we had like a x plus 2 and an x minus 2. Just FOIL it. The middle terms cancel out, you're done. When we have something like this, write it out twice and distribute it, or FOIL it, whatever you want to call it. Okay? To know that pattern of square it, and then multiply them and double them. We will see that again when we factor a perfect square trinomial later in chapter 6. But for right now, there's really no benefit that I have to know that pattern. If you do, great, but don't force it. Okay? If you're struggling with it, just distribute and you will do just fine. Okay? And then just one little extra bit that I wanted to show you here. Make sure that if you have a quantity with more than one term and you're raising to an exponent, write it out and then go through that multiplication. Okay? So just good bookkeeping. Be careful with your arithmetic. Keep working hard. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.